Good morning, world. This is Steve Rao, the host of Pod TV's World Edition. In our World Edition, we bring you news from around the world, talk about innovation, and continue our discussion of this pandemic, which rages on like a hydra. Cut off one's head, and one other head grows in its place. And today we have another head to talk about as we talk about a number of other issues. The Omicron variant. Yes, the World Health Organization has reported that the Omicron variant could be a dangerous variant of the COVID-19 pandemic virus and could spread and be more contagious. We still are waiting for more data and science on this, but we know that it was first spotted in Hong Kong and Belgium and now has made its way on to Germany, Italy, and Britain. Britain has now a mask enforcement policy in place, and Africa has actually began travel restrictions. Now, what we know is this pandemic is not going away. July of last year, President Biden, or this year, declared independence from the COVID pandemic. Now, a president whose approval rating is below 34%, around 33%. President Biden is in trouble by many people saying that his COVID pandemic efforts have not worked and that we actually have had more people die this year from COVID pandemic and all the variants than the previous year. This has the Democrats scurrying in fear as they don't know what to do. Even though they passed a $1 trillion infrastructure plan, there's much chagrin and disappointment about the president's approval ratings and whether the Republicans are all positioned and poised to take over the United States House and the United States Senate, which would put us back to where we were when Bill Clinton was in the White House and Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House. How do you spell gridlock? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Arbery trial, and we have Shaquille Latimer that wants to share some insight on what happened there. And some other things we're going to talk about is the elections coming up in Honduras, cyber war in between Iran and Israel, and a number of other topics. But we pray for anyone out there to be safe from this pandemic. We are seeing more people get booster shots, which is important to increase your immunity, waning immunity, even if you had the Pfizer or Moderna or Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Now, with that being said, we begin this week of November 29th. We do hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. And the one thing I forgot to mention, and we might talk about it today, is November 23rd, 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated, the first United States president in our modern era to be assassinated. And I forgot last week to mention that on my social media. I got so busy getting ready for the holidays, but I didn't see it talked about a lot, which I found to be interesting. Maybe I was just very burned out and tired after a long and drawn-out election. With that being said, we have Mark Lee with us, Shaquille Latimer from Down Under, and Nick Paladiva. So welcome to the show, gentlemen.
We also have Sasha Starr. We don't need to leave out Sasha Starr, the master of chess and investment.
Yes, Sasha Starr, and we'll let him talk about his show. Welcome. And but folks, before we get into the issues of the day, Omicron, Shaquille, why don't you give us your insight about the Arbery verdict and what we should learn from this moving forward?
Oh, I don't really have any insight. The pre-show conversation was just about me missing the Arbery show. That was my idea for us to have, but unfortunately, I had some tech issues last week, so I wasn't able to make it on. But no, look, I think, I thought that they were guilty. I didn't think they were guilty of murder in the first degree. But the charges that they were charged with, like malice murder and things like that, I thought that was reasonable given the circumstances. The only concern that I really would have with all of this is that these guys decided to take the law into their own hands. Carl Rittenhouse was described as being a vigilante, but I wouldn't put him in the vigilante character, in that bucket. Whereas these guys, I would say that they were acting as vigilantes, and I think that this is, potentially a symptom of what happens if the public doesn't have faith in the judicial process and the public doesn't have faith in the policing system, and that goes both ways. That's not just a partisan political issue. If people on the right think that the police are going to kowtow to people on the left, and be soft on crime, then they're going to try and take things into their own hands. If people on the left think that the police are going to treat them or treat people, based on class or gender disparities or race or any of those, race being the most talked about thing in the United States, if people on the left feel that that's what's happening, they're going to cry for defunding the police and movements like that. But they're also going to start trying to take justice into their own hands by putting a lot of pressure on with riots and protests and things like that. So, I think this is a reflection of a breakdown in governmental systems that we're supposed to be able to rely on. And that would be the takeaway that I have from the Arbery trial, is that these guys, they thought that people were stealing from their neighbourhood. The police weren't doing enough about it. They took the law into their own hands. He should have known better.
The only thing I'll add, thank you so much, and we want to get Sasha's perspective before we jump into Omicron. But my take on it is, one of the telling things during the trial, and I'd like to get Mark Lee's opinion on this, is the testimony that I heard where somebody said, there's an emergency, and they called 911, and they go, there's a black man running through my neighborhood. And I mean, that to me, what's an emergency of a black man running through a neighborhood? What if so an Indian man, what if I was running through a neighborhood? But
I don't think, look, people get flustered and they say things. I don't think that's, look, I spent a lot of time in Georgia. I love Georgia. I haven't been to that particular area, but, let's not make out that white Georgians are ringing up the police saying, oh my God, there's an emergency. There's a black man running down the street. That's not quite how things happened. I think that they were under a misapprehension. But the prosecution did a really great job in that case, and I think that they rightly grilled the main guy on the stand, saying, well, you can't, the police couldn't have stopped him. They didn't have probable cause. Why should he stop for you? To have a chat to you. So, look, if you're going to take the law into your own hands, you better know the law. I think that they all would have been far better off. And the neighbour, I feel a little sorry for, because I think he got dragged into it. But, when it's all said and done, they took the law into their own hands. They should have stayed at home, called the police, and hoped for the best.
I agree. Sasha, any insight before we jump into Omicron?
I think it would be helpful to establish who actually is allowed to run. So probably white people, maybe some Asians, maybe some Chinese people. I'm not sure about Japanese people. Are they allowed to run over the property? Probably not.
Well, let's hope he's not having to run.
Thankfully, unlike Steve, I don't run very much. That's how I keep this beautiful fat physique.
I'm running.
Mark, what's your comments? Do you feel like going for a jog through the rough and tumble streets of Georgia?
Yeah, exactly.
Depends on the streets of Georgia that we're going running through. There are some parts of Georgia that I am not trying to run through or trying to go into, because there are parts of Georgia that are still very much have some redneck kind of atmosphere and things of that nature. So there's some parts of Georgia that I am not going to run through, and I'm not even going to attempt to probably go into them and things of that nature. But, I've got a cousin in Georgia, and I would definitely go visit him. He's outside of Atlanta, and he might even have the law of the land with him, since he is a member of the GBI. And actually, it was his agency that helped bring some of the evidence to fruition and to the whole nature, because they were the ones that found some of that evidence. I believe it was one of the videotapes and some of the other things that were involved that he found and all of that. So definitely not him personally, but his agency, I should say, because I don't know that it was my cousin Jonathan that did that. But
we welcome Sherry Burrell from
Beverly
Hills.
Yep.
And
can I just say, Mark, I think for me, the more telling thing, if BLM or anybody wants to make a big deal about there being systemic racism, which I still will tell you I don't believe in. That's my personal view. But this is a case I think's been mishandled. It's been mishandled by the police. It was mishandled by the prosecution. And I think that anybody looking at this case with, impartially would look at this and go, they really dropped the ball. Thankfully, it eventually actually got to trial and got in front of a grand jury, went to trial and was prosecuted as it should have been. But it, there shouldn't have been this sort of question, and I would probably agree. You might be surprised. I'd probably agree that if the situation was reversed and it was two black guys chasing a white guy down the street in a black neighborhood, and they rang up the police and said, "What's your emergency? There's a white guy running down the street," and they caught him like that, I think charges probably would have been laid a little bit quicker. But there's no way to prove that. But here I do think that race played a part. I don't think it was the only motivating factor, but I would agree with you that it probably played a pretty big part in the situation, as well as the fact that the McMichaels have obvious connections to law enforcement and the DA's office.
Yeah, it definitely plays an obvious part, and I'm not even sure that in that case that you described whether the person would even get out alive. So, like I said, that was a whole nother matter and things of that nature. So that would be another question. But ironically, Mr. Rittenhouse was recently on the news on Fox News and said that he was not a racist and that he supported the BLM movement partially because he supports peaceful demonstrations and he believes that there needs to be a change because he was talking about prosecution misconduct, and he was saying not just in his case but in other cases. So he was actually saying that it's amazing how much a prosecutor can take advantage of somebody. So maybe he's having new attitudes about the judicial system since he's gone through it and might have had conversations with the
I believe as well in the right of people to be able to protest and in order to have their grievances heard. I believe in that. I don't believe in everything that BLM says. I don't disagree with everything that they say, right? But I just don't believe in all of it. But do they have the right to protest? Absolutely. Do they have the right to lobby government and to try to garner support within the community to lobby government and ask for change? Of course they do. Yeah. Do I have the right to disagree with them? I should.
Oh, yeah.
And what I don't think they have the right to do is to use the threat of physical violence or actual physical violence to loot, to steal Versace and Gucci handbags and to say, oh, it's reparations. I think that's bullshit. And I think it makes people of color worse off when we're trying to achieve things in our lives, when we allow people who are thugs to say that they've done that in our names. Don't do it in my name.
Let's shift to pandemic strategy. Go ahead, Sasha.
Just one more thing. In Toronto, where I live, there is a special place. It's a Queen's Park right behind the government of Ontario. A beautiful place or so on. It's designated for protesters. You can protest about anything, what you want. You can protest against majorities and minorities and gays and straight people and just anything, whatever comes to your mind. You are welcome. You're
protest, and
you protest. The only thing is, generally speaking, Toronto is the climate is a little bit too cold for protest, so they cannot stay there for much longer than maybe 20-30 minutes, and that's about it because otherwise it's very cold. But in the summertime, it's a beautiful, fantastic place. You can protest for 5-6 hours, maybe even couple of days if you choose.
And Sasha, that's what they should do in America. They should say, right, from now on, all protests are to be held in, I don't know, what's the coldest part of
a designated place.
Up north, up in Maine or something, north Maine, northeast Maine, or right there over Lake Michigan. You can have your protests there.
But Shaquille, a lot of places have those kind of places. There's a place right here in downtown Durham that has been renamed, recoined. Some people would say that it's got an interesting recoined name, but some people call it Freedom Plaza. Some people call it different other kind of names, but it is located right there in the center of downtown, right near one of the major hotels. And that is where a lot of the protests take place. I mean, I remember being at a protest that involved the Latin American population and the whole thing with DACA and things of that nature. I remember being at some protests, even with Occupied Durham back in the day. So there is a designated place like that. Some people would argue that the place in Raleigh in front of the state capitol was a designated protest place during Moral Mondays, but it wasn't just Moral Monday people that used that plaza. So there are places that are seen as the designated protest place. Now, whether that's because of their locale and because of the fact of visibility and things of that nature, that's up for debate. But there are places like what you are talking about.
Lately, thank you, Mark. I think lately protesters found some much more attractive places, such as Apple stores, Tiffany, Gucci, and some others. First of all, combining protest and some financial gains. Why not?
Let's go to our host, Steve. Let's go to our host.
Speaking about guns in stores, we didn't have a chance to talk about it. But there was a shooting in Durham at a very big mall called South Point.
Yes.
Our former police chief, Patrice Andrews, is now the chief of police of Durham. We want to wish her and just pray for Durham. Very scary. I don't know whether people are going to quit going to malls. It's just really scary. I don't know the details of it. We'll come back and talk about it. But let's go. We pray for Durham.
I can give you a couple of quick details. The mall was there were 3 people injured. I think one was facing critical injury. I haven't heard yet whether that person has totally left this planet or whatever. But definitely one was definitely facing some serious injuries. Actually, a friend of the family, my brother, was talking to him because he was literally leaving the mall because he works in that mall and everything. So he was actually in lockdown until he could get out. So we were coming back on Friday, or at least I was coming back because Malik was going back to my mom's house. There was definitely a conversation with Albert, and he was talking about that. And the mall did reopen on yesterday, and I understand that people were going back to the mall. But in a conversation with another friend of mine from California, apparently there is a group of folks, and this may even come back to an issue that we have talked about in terms of gun control and things of that nature. But there is apparently a group of people that are traveling around the country doing a very systemized, targeted big mall kind of things. And apparently they are very quick, they are very efficient, and they are very scary. Is what I've been described, because when I mentioned what happened in Durham, this friend of mine.
What are they doing, Mark? What are they doing? They're going around the country.
They're robbing. Yeah, they're robbing. Major heists.
So let me just ask you this on gun control, because obviously, not having lived in the United States, and I've only been to 26 states, so maybe the other 24 states are a little bit different. Yeah. But you've got a Second Amendment. You have all these rules. Nick, feel free to come on back and try and defend the Democrats' position on this. If you were to create laws restricting gun ownership, law-abiding citizens would obey those laws because, by definition, they're law-abiding citizens. They're not the ones that are committing, gang crimes or, going around shooting up the place. That's not them. They're not committing robberies. So creating gun laws is going to disarm the law-abiding public at a time when you don't have enough police to deal with your current crimes, right? Wouldn't that just make the situation worse? Where's the logic here? What am I missing?
You're living in a myth, dude. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why. Sasha lives in Canada. Canada has very strict gun laws. Does that hurt all the law-abiding citizens in Canada, Sasha?
Yes.
No.
Yes, it does.
You're living in a Republican
because the Canadians don't have the same rights that they should have. Hang on. No, let me answer the question. They don't have the same rights.
You already answered the question. You're wrong, buddy.
They haven't got the same rights that they should have, and their constitution is supposed to be based on British rights. And here we have Canada, a Commonwealth country, where gun laws and gun rights are entrenched in the Magna Carta, and just like Mother England gets rid of their guns, Canada gets rid of their guns. We won't even talk about Australia.
And they got rid of their guns too.
Terrible.
Okay, I mean, the thing is, Sasha, who's here, who lives in Canada, will enlighten the darkness that falls upon your fallacious arguments in Australia. So I don't even have to speak. If I
gave Sasha a rocket launcher, he's not going to go down.
Yeah, I know. You have all these myths in your head. Let's hear from reality.
Why can't he be able to buy one?
Well, yeah, let's hear from reality.
I would like to observe something very interesting. Many years ago, we lived in a large house. And when we moved in, I bought a gun and ammunition and so on, and learned how to use it. And you know what? When I found what a wonderful thing is to own a gun, I started almost dream of a situation where somebody will break into the house and I will shoot him or her. And then I started to, of course, it hasn't
That's the Russian
happened.
in you, Sasha.
It hasn't happened for a long time. And then I started to be upset about, okay, so I spent money to buy the guns, ammunition, training, and all this stuff, and I keep it all and check it from time to time. And I can't use it. What's the use of it? Then I'm wasting my time and money and everything else. So it comes to a situation, although if you have it, the great Russian writer Chekhov, who said if there is an arms on the wall, there is a shotgun on the wall for first
Yeah.
part of it, second part, but it must be shot.
Sasha, by your
So-
logic, Sasha, by your logic, you must get upset every year when you go to renew your car insurance and your home insurance and your life insurance policies because you go, I didn't have a car accident. I never had to use it. It's a waste of money. I paid all this money for my car insurance. My house didn't burn out. I'm so upset that my house didn't burn down. I've wasted all this money on insurance. I've got life insurance. I'm so upset that I haven't died yet. What a waste of money. Is that the same logic?
There is a slight difference, though. The car insurance, house insurance, or so on, it's almost a must thing to have. I mean, you'll be crazy to drive a car without insurance. Right?
Exactly. It's like you'd be crazy to disarm the law-abiding citizens of the United States whilst allowing the criminals to continue to own guns.
But Shaquille,
No, Shaquille, you have a point. I don't argue. We are talking about Canada. It's kind of a difference. It's very close to U.S. And it looks like U.S. in many ways, but it's different. It's a different attitude.
So that's a good
No,
segue. We're gonna
just really-
we
just
don't
really
want to
quickly.
spend the whole hour on gun control. It's an issue for a whole nother hour. But go ahead.
No, yeah, we could definitely do another hour, but I did just want to just really quickly clarify some things. One, it was 3 that were shot there in Durham and 3 that were injured. But Shaquille, and then I will get off the topic because it is a topic that has been of interest, not just here in Durham, but around the nation. What would you do for gun control? Because even our local city councilman is trying to say that there might be need to have new initiatives to deal with gun control, whether that's, maybe like limiting the access to the more high-powered weapons like AK-47s and things of that nature.
You're so obsessed with AK-47s, it's AR-15s. Nobody's running around the US.
But I'm just saying, but whatever the guns are, I'm just using different examples. AK-47.
I come from a country where we don't have any guns. Like, I know the difference between an AK-47 and an AR-15. Come on, Mark.
I do not spend enough time with guns to know the difference, but I know that they're both high-powered. But my question is, what would you do? Because that is a question that even Mark Anthony Middleton,
He doesn't
my
have
city
an
council
answer.
person, has brought
He
up.
doesn't have an
I'm just
answer. I
asking you,
do.
and so
I
maybe
can help you with
Let
this
me
one,
give
Mark.
you
He
let me
doesn't
give
have
you
an
my answer before Nick, Mr. Smart,
the smart guy will give you an answer.
Well,
because his HOA and his security protects him.
I know
Let me give you my answer, Mark. I'll do a
Please.
couple of things. One, I'd make it easier for people to own a gun. Okay. 2, I'd make it far easier for people to have concealed carry permits in the United States. I'd stop restricting it and I'd let them have access to more weapons, more ammunition. That's what I'd do.
Okay,
Right.
so
And then I'd clamp down and come down like a ton of bricks on criminals that break the law
yeah, right.
in serious felonies.
I tell you, Mark, he doesn't have a serious answer. Let me tell you what
Well,
the answer
That
is.
is, no, that is a serious
Okay,
answer.
wait. I have a
Answer.
very serious solution rather than his Yahoo solution, which existed, right? What you do is it's totally different. What you do is first you repeal the Second Amendment. It's garbage. It's outdated for years. Then you allow people to have guns as long as they pass testing and training and insurance, TTI.
Like they have to now.
Okay,
Like they have
once
to
they
now.
pass the testing, training, insurance, because there's some people there that know how to use guns, then they're allowed to have the guns. The rest of this, give it to every Yahoo and mental patient on the student that's out the door. That's all gone. Give it to all the criminals. That's all gone. Because see, right now, the police are hampered. They go arrest somebody. Oh, wait, you have a gun, but you can have one. I don't care if you're a criminal, a past criminal, or you're out to commit a crime because you're protected by the
Well,
Second
that's not true.
Amendment.
Well, first of all,
Get
that's not
rid
true.
of the Second Amendment.
That's
and
not true,
put
Nick.
reasonable
That's not
laws
true.
in.
Felons,
Okay.
felons,
And
people
don't
with mental
listen
health
to
issues are
Shaquille.
already
Shaquille would
excluded.
hand every
Right.
mental patient out there a bloody gun. He's out of his
Mental
bloody
health,
mind.
the mental health patients are already excluded, right? Wrongly, I might add, in my opinion, but that's a whole different debate. Okay, felons are excluded from being able to have guns. Wrongly, I might add, in my opinion. But again, that's a whole different discussion. Okay, but they're already excluded. So what do you want to do? You want to disarm the law-abiding public?
No. Wait.
You eliminate cash bail.
God needs to give you 2 years. I said that you can allow the law-abiding citizens, as long as they
after they do these tests, which is what they already have to do. Which is what they already have to do.
So guys,
which is what they already have to do.
It's called standard, guys. Standard.
What about that guy that just ran over? You get rid of cash bail, you defund the police, you let everybody out, and look at that guy just ran over.
Counselor, you're running to a different subject. You're running to a different subject.
Well, guys, we're going to come back to this issue. We're getting off topic today. We're going to so let's talk about Omicron real quickly. We're not hearing or reporting any cases here. Are you hearing anything about this in Canada, Australia, gentlemen?
Yes. We already have 2 in Ontario. They've been detected. So it's a very unpleasant situation where we were slowly but surely getting to complete reopening, and the flights were starting to happen to Europe, to the United States, everywhere. So now it's all been on hold. There is no lockdown yet. But on the other hand, the expectations of a quick recovery and going full speed ahead with travel plans or so on, it's on hold, unfortunately.
Shaquille, what about down under in Australia? Any cases being reported?
I'm not gonna comment very much on this because I know that YouTube doesn't like it. So all I'll say is yes, there's been a few cases reported in New South Wales.
Well,
our government has said some stuff about it, but what our government has said is a little bit different to what the US government has said, and so we don't upset the all-powerful speech censors at YouTube. So I'll just say nothing.
Well, I'm going to get my booster, but my wife got sick for 2 days when she got hers, and my December is so busy with holiday stuff. But I think for me, my question for you all before we go to the next topic is, when will this be over? I mean, it just doesn't seem to me that there's any end in sight. Every time the cases go down and there's another pattern, there's another surge, there's another variant. Then we do that. We have waning immunity. We have some people who don't. Now, and look, I'm going to be devil's advocate. The people that are, that are saying, well, I don't want to get vaccinated. Now I'm wondering myself, I got 2 shots. And I got my wife barking at me, get your booster.
You're gonna get us banned you're gonna get the whole network banned for a week. So all we can say is follow the health advice to our audience. Follow the health advice and follow the science. Don't ask what the health advice is. Don't ask what the science is. You're not allowed to do that.
But when is a pandemic over? When we've had other pandemics, what is the definition of when it ends? Does the immunity have to reach a certain level? I don't know. This is a homework assignment for me because, we've been talking about this being over now for a year now, and it doesn't seem to be over in Canada. It's not over in Australia. You guys just got out of lockdown. United States, I mean, we thought it was behind us a little bit, but now, I don't know, guys. I mean, this is a question I think we need to address on the show. When is a pandemic over?
I'm not sure that it will be over at foreseeable future, simply because the new variants are coming in from time to time, and it's not even proven that this double vaccines and boosters altogether, for example, protects you from this Omicron variant. So, and even if it will, and of course, Pfizer, Moderna, they're all working now on a kind of a new vaccine, I understand, that will protect you from Omicron. But by the time that they will finish it in 3 to 4 months, there could be a new variant. So it is a very uncertain situation. It's something new that mankind has experienced in the last 2 years. And of course, we all pray that it will be over. But in what's happening right now, I really don't see how it could be over, especially soon.
Just to let you guys know, we have a lot of people viewing, so it's time for a commercial. It'll only take a couple seconds. Watch. Okay. Oh, that was pretty fast.
Welcome if you're watching on World Edition. We welcome you. This is Steve Rao, the host of the show and moderator of this great panel we have. We just talked about the Omicron variant. We will be keeping our eyes on that. Before we leave today, we're going to talk a little bit about China. I watched Fareed Zakaria's show yesterday. I want to have a dedicated show on China. Perhaps, Nick, we can bring in David Walker again to come in.
No, David's going to be on the next hour. He emailed me. He got the email. I don't know how Sasha.
So, well, that happens sometimes. But you asked
I don't
about
know.
the.
It's like everybody. I'm going like you guys.
You asked about the.
I thought
pandemic.
He's back from his vacation. He'll be on.
I'd love to join. Send me the link, Nick. I'd like to join.
You want to join? I'll send you.
Yeah, maybe.
Let me send Steve the pre-commercial question. Steve, the pandemic will be over when our merciful lords and masters at big tech and big government decide it's over, right? And I can't say anything more, so I'll just...
That's right. Otherwise, you're going to be banned on YouTube for a week.
Well, like I
Speaking
said,
of big government,
we probably
we're going to
might
have
be
this Friday. I'm hoping we live from PBS. We're going to break down the infrastructure bill. Look at all the different aspects of the infrastructure bill, where the money is going. But there's a lot of money floating in the American system, folks. And, there are concerns about inflation. I don't know whether you could talk about this in Economics Monday eventually, Sasha, about, is inflation coming because people are buying more products? And that's
coming. It's arrived.
Here.
That baby arrived 9 months ago, and you haven't given it a name yet. That's what's happened. You're still trying to work out its gender.
So, real quickly, Honduras, really big election in Honduras. You've got there could be the first female, I think her name is Castro, and she's and then running against a mayor. And the Biden administration is looking closely at this because they're trying to control the immigration and looking at the Central American countries. And of course, you've got President Biden also looking at what he's going to do with the off-year elections. Before we go into what's around the... Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say something there? So, a very, very big day for Barbados. They've become a republic. So, Charles Windsor has flown over there. I'm not sure why, but he's flown over there. And so they've become a republic, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
And I'm so bummed Matt McConaughey isn't running for governor of Texas. Yeah, I like Mike McConaughey. There's nothing like listen to a little Matt McConaughey movie to relax. I just love the way he talks.
Maybe he'll give North Carolina a go.
What?
Maybe he'll give North Carolina a go.
We need more actors to step in. I mean, come on. My favorite president was Michael Douglas, Andy Shepard, American president. Bob Rumson is worried about two things: getting you afraid of it and selling it.
Steve,
10 seconds is up. My name is Andy Shepard, and I am the president.
Steve, if you love actors being presidents so much, I take it that you absolutely adored Ronald Reagan.
Actually, I thought Reagan, I was only 10 years old when he was sworn in as president. He was a great communicator. I always
felt better president.
Well, I don't know. I was only 10 years old at the time, but he did have a strong foreign policy. I think he asserted strength in American foreign policy again. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. And that's a great segue before we get into some other things going on around the world. But
was it President Gorbachev? That was Germany.
No, but this I want to talk about this because I think it's important to spend some time today talking about this. But I would like, if somebody can email me, I'd like to get on the economics show with I think David Walker. I want to hear his perspective from China. If there's a room for me to join as a panelist.
That's a Nick question. And
I'll shoot Nick. What time is that show, by the way?
It's right for this one. We'll talk about it off air.
Okay. But anyway, here's the thing. Okay, I want to spend a few minutes on this because it's important. But I think we should dedicate a show to China because what's very interesting is the world premier leader of China, Xi Jinping, is really shifted into this dictatorial, authoritarian kind of hardline socialist communist regime, which is very interesting because it was market forces and capitalism which enabled China to create over 800 million in middle class. There's more billionaires in China, including Jack Ma, who's been sort of silenced by this, by this leader. But what I was amazed the amount of artificial intelligence and surveillance technologies that are identifying citizens in China. And my question is, and it finally dawned upon me that, and Fareed talked a little bit about it, is this premier so afraid of the independent states of China seceding like the Soviet Union? And so that he's trying to build on this feel of nationalism to unify China, right? Which is very interesting because do you all think that, I'm going to start with Shaquille, and this would be interesting. Do you think that this would hurt China down the road? Because it's not going to help them economically if they close off and hurt capitalism. Are they going to hurt their image around the world, which they already have? You know, so is this sort of moving into a new Cold War with China? And is this guy? He's hard to figure out. What's your take? Very confusing. I'm very confused.
He's your neighbor, Shaquille. So you got to deal with China.
I'm very confused. What is
He's your
this guy
problem,
trying to
not
do?
ours. Right.
Is it all? Is it smoke and mirrors, or is he? Because China's free market policies were working in terms of infrastructure, right?
Well, so let's let's just go back a little bit. So, firstly, what's happening in China with social credit score, and if you lose enough points, you can't catch a train and all those sorts of things. That's what you Democrats are actually asking for in America. Now, whenever I say that to them, I go, "Oh no, we don't want that." Well, then stop asking for it. Just like Mark says, we don't really want to defund the police. Then stop asking for it. Okay, China, has had a difficult history, and look, Japan attacked China, as we know. There's been a lot of things that have happened to China over the history. They held at the ideal that they would be able to all work together and share their resources, and everybody would live happily ever after. Unfortunately, the ideal and reality didn't quite work out. So what they did was they started to have a mixed system. So just like pretty much every other country on earth, they have a mixed system. They have capitalism on one side, and they have socialized services for another side. The difference with China is that the government tries to restrain the excesses of billionaires, the excesses of celebrity, the excesses of people that have abundant wealth. They try to restrain that sort of behavior, and the government steps in to work out whether the expenditure of the very wealthy is in the national interest. And if it hurts the national interest, in the government's opinion, then they restrain that. Now, I highly disagree with that type of political philosophy, but ultimately it is up to the people of China. And if the people of China want to have that kind of a system, and they believe that that works for them, they are perfectly entitled to do that. In relation to the Chinese wanting to protect its territories and making sure that it doesn't break up like the USSR did, again, a responsible political leader would generally try to keep the country together. The United States, for example, had a war over it, right? The Civil War over that exact issue. So, of course, you're going to try and protect your interests. And in relation to the Belt and Road Initiative, their advanced military weaponry now and their military strength and all those sorts of things, I'm concerned about it because I'm worried about what that means for the future of Western civilization and whether we might fall prey to or fall under Chinese rule, because I don't want to. I like our ideals. But I can't criticize them for it because that's exactly what they should be doing. And why do I know it's exactly what they should be doing? Why am I so confident that I can say that China is acting in its self-interest, which is absolutely reasonable? Because this is my criticism of the United States, of Australia, of the United Kingdom, of the Five Eyes nations generally, and of Europe, is that we have sat there and focused on issues to a degree that, race relations, it doesn't need to be this divided. The majority of white Americans don't hate black Americans, but you wouldn't know that if you listen to American media, right? We've focused on gender issues, sexual orientation. We've worried about all this woke stuff, and we've fallen behind other nations. And China shows us how far we've fallen behind. It's not for us to attack China and say, "Oh, China, you shouldn't do that." It's for us to pull our socks up and start doing something positive for ourselves.
But in his desperation to create this sense of nationalism, is he eventually going to do what happened to the Soviet Union? Where if you are suppressing the rights of the people, where you're controlling what they can think, you're controlling what they can read, you're controlling, even now they're cutting off shows, they're doing this.
Are you talking about YouTube? Wait, Steve.
Dude, China. I mean,
I thought you were talking about YouTube.
No, in the last year.
He's talking about. But Steve, again, if you're going to criticize China for that, why are you not criticizing your own party for doing that?
But we're not cutting off people from the internet. We're going to have disagreements here.
You're canceling people. You're changing. You're taking books out. You want to cancel To Kill a Mockingbird. You want to rip statues down. I mean, these ideas. Where do you think they're coming from?
They're universal.
Universal. Yeah, the Democrats did this before, right? The Democrats went into South Africa and they said, you know what? We've got to keep the black people down. What do we do? So they went into South Africa. They found out how they were managing to maintain apartheid. The Democrats came up with all those ideas about unionization. This is not, this is not just some conspiracy theory. This is just fact. This is historical fact of what the Democrats did. There's no secret that the Democrats are doing it again now. They don't want to have dissent. That's why the Democrats spend so much trying to destroy their opposition. The worst thing is that the Republicans are now trying to do the same thing. Republicans sit there and if you are not the same sort of flag-waving nationalists that they are, they want to destroy you as well. It's just so divided, and these ideas are terrible. Let people be. Let people have their opinions. Let people live their lives. Just let people go about their daily business.
But we say that, but then we have rules and laws that actually go against that, and then we fight because of whatever reasons that they may have out there. You talked about definitely around the issue of LGBTI, and my brother actually pointed out to me that there's supposed to be a whole bunch of other letters that I'm leaving out because apparently they all add up to the word quilt bag and everything. So I cannot remember all of those different acronyms and all of that.
We all know what it means. It's an abbreviation, LGBTQI or whatever. It's an abbreviation. We all know what LGBT is.
Right. We know what it means. But like I said, there's supposed to be other words like questionable and a lot of other identity type politics. But that being said, we talk about how many countries there are in the world and things of that nature. We talk about airing to all these different countries. And your country is one of those that actually allows same-sex marriage, as does the United States. But there are a whole lot of other countries that it is seen as a, very much of a affront to the people of that country and the things along that line. Because apparently there are 30 countries, including Australia and the U.S., and there are a number of others, including Mexico, that allow it and everything. And they have different rules. Some of them will allow the marriages to be, recognized, and some of them they have not full recognition and all of that. But definitely it is an issue that is out there that is divisive to some people. So that can be one of those issues that I think has to be addressed on a world stage. But one of the questions I was going to ask you, Shaquille, and that wasn't really about that, but was, and I agree with something that you said earlier, which is there any truly capitalist or socialist country in the world? Because I think that just about every country in the world has a mixture of all of these things, whether it's some of the socialistic principles or some of the capitalistic principles and things of that nature. I can't think of a country that is totally 100% one or the other. Even Cuba.
That's right. That's right. And that's the thing. We have a mixed system because things are about finding a balance. Right. So the idea that in a two-party preferred system, that one party or the supporters of one party would try to destroy the other party and their supporters is anathemic to the virtues of liberal democracy.
Well, that's a good point.
Should never do that.
I really like where Shaquille Latimer is going with this. I mean, and we're going to get back. We got a couple more issues, but I think this is an interesting topic. But I think we must also cherish every aspect of democracy that is so vital to our survival.
Liberal democracy.
Liberal democracy. Respecting each other's opinions. Because here's the thing, and boy, I tell you, Shaquille is having a good hour today. As we're talking about China, what was really telling to me in this documentary is that the supreme leader of China, is watching the riots in Washington, D.C. And he's saying to himself, that's the American country? That's democracy working? China, I don't want you to be like that, which helps him play on this nationalism.
Oh, come on. Look
Of
at
course
the
he's
riots
doing it.
in Hong
Steve, no,
Kong.
but
He was
Steve
watching it
has
from the premier's
But Steve has
office.
a point. Steve has a point.
There are
Because
riots in
when
Hong
I talk
Kong.
to world leaders,
The world is
when
watching.
I talk to world leaders who do not have the same sorts of views as we have, or are not quite as liberal as we are, they say this exact thing to me. They'll say things like, not so much China, but they'll say things to me, well, why do we want to educate our girls if our girls are going to end up becoming like American women? And I say, well, you need to spend a bit more time in America because American women are, they contribute a lot to society. But it's this breakdown in the social order that they don't want to see. You've got China at the moment trying to make sure that their boys do not become too effeminate. At the same time as you've got mandatory drag queen story time happening at Australian kindergartens and American primary schools. I mean, it's an insanity. When I was growing up, and it wasn't that long ago, geez, when I was growing up, if a girl was played with all the boys and came out and climbed trees and caught tadpoles, she might be called a tomboy. But she was never asked, "Are you sure that you're a girl? Maybe you're only 90% girl and 10% boy." She was never asked that at a young and impressionable age. So this is what our education system focuses on, and this is not what is being focused on in the Middle East. This is not what's being focused on in China or many other Asian countries. The Middle East, for example, many countries in the Middle East have introduced computer programming into middle school while we're introducing gender studies. Sasha.
I think we have votes.
I think, talking about China, you must not forget that the difference between democratic system and autocratic system is very simple one. In democratic system, a person, a man or a woman or whatever it might be, is everything, and state is a secondary to serve individuals. In autocratic system, the state is everything, and a single person, human being, is nothing. It's there to serve the state. Now, in the long run, at all times, autocratic systems always prevail and democratic systems fall apart.
No.
There we go.
No.
Look in the history of ancient Greece. Look at
He's going
to destroy China.
The only thing is, in the long run, autocratic system is stronger. It's more monolithic than democratic system. That's why it will prevail. Not right away. The democratic system may be very prosperous for 300-400 years, but not more than that.
Just a second. I got Adolf on the line here.
Oh. Sasha,
they said I should give it up, like that just ain't good enough. I wasn't.
Appreciate the ad and everything.
The only reason why democracy fails is because of the smug children of wealthy parents and grandparents like Nick, who decide to start changing the constitution, right, so that people are no longer able to restrain government power. That's why democracy failed. Nick, get back over here and respond.
Well, maybe Nick will come back, but I do have a question because you just brought up the Middle East. So I've got a question for you because you talked about the Middle East and some of the things that they were doing in terms of women's rights and things of that nature. Am I not correct in thinking that there are still some Sharia laws that are out there, that there are some major protests against those laws in some of the Middle Eastern countries? Because I know that there was this whole wearing white thing that was a protest against the Sharia laws, which are very much anti-women, as I recall them.
They're not anti-women. No. Firstly, they're not anti-women at all. That's not.
Do we have a Sharia law expert on board? Shaquille. There we go.
Half my family are Muslim. How many family members have you got that are Muslim, by the way?
My in-laws are. They're from Pakistan.
And I spend a lot of time in the Middle East. So let's not go there.
There we go. Now you'll get certified as an expert.
You might think that they oppress women by the standards of the West. A lot of women in the Middle East believe that the over-sexualization of women in Western society is oppressive to them. So this is a difference of opinion. But is there Sharia law, as in religious law in Muslim majority countries? Yeah. Does the United States and most other Western countries, especially those that were, that have some connection to England, are those mostly Christian countries? Yeah. So, I mean, come on, like let's not. It's not that these laws are designed to oppress women. Unfortunately, it would appear that there is some oppression that occurs in the Middle East against women, but that's not all women. Okay, that's just certain instances where women have been perhaps not given the same opportunities as we would expect or as we would desire.
Well, we're almost going to close out. Mark, you let me know when. We've had a very vibrant discussion here.
Yeah, very vibrant.
I'm going to go ahead and close out. Well, go ahead.
We've still got 10 minutes, Steve.
Yeah, we still got a few more minutes, and definitely, I'm glad that you brought that up because, like I said, I've just heard of different protests, including from some people in the Middle East that were feeling that they did not have the same rights, including some women that were in the medical field, and they definitely did not feel like they were given the same kind of respect. I even have a couple of friends that are in the comedy field, and one of them is also a dentist. So, like I said, they were feeling that their rights were stepped on and things of that nature.
Yeah, sure. They don't have the same rights as women in Western civilization. Of course not. But women in Western civilization, they're not any happier, it appears, because according to them, the rate of rape at Ivy League universities is higher than it is in the Middle East, according to American, what you guys always try to say. And that's not just because of race hustling or gender hustling or anything like that. That apparently is a real statistic. That the rate of sexual abuse of girls and women at American Ivy League universities is worse than it is in Pakistan, is worse than it is in the Middle East, that women are really oppressed, they're oppressed always, and et cetera, et cetera. Whilst women in Saudi Arabia would like to be able to drive a car. Women and girls in Yemen don't want to be getting married at 9. There are significant differences, I think.
No, I understand that.
Well, do we have a women's rights issue expert on the? Oh, no, we don't. Okay. How about across the border issues?
According to your rules, all I've got to do is say, right from now on, I am now a woman. I might change in 10 minutes back to a man, but for right now, I'm a woman, and you shall refer to me with she, her pronouns.
Okay, She-Kill has arrived.
She-Kill
has arrived. There we go. All right. So the thing is, we do have an expert here on there. Notice what happened to media, though. All the border issues with Syria and Poland were taken off the air. The minute they're taken off the air, it doesn't exist anymore. And the media shifted to this Omicron variant COVID-19, and they ignored these other issues that go on out there. They do that all the time. So the thing is, they're basically guiding the discussion around the world. What should we have people discuss about? Let's not discuss the cross-the-border issues today. We're just going to throw that off the air. It's not that, a bunch of people are trying to get through the Polish borders or trapped there right now, but because it's off the air, it doesn't exist anymore for the world.
A bit like the I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. The Waukesha, as that's pronounced, the Waukesha parade. Police, to CNN's latest headline, police identified the driver they say plowed into the parade. It was never, there was all this sort of flowery language about it. It wasn't just this guy.
That's an interesting question that even comes down, and I'm glad you brought it up because I'm still confused sometimes about the whole pronoun thing. And yes, I can be one of the most liberal people here and everything, but I know that I was having a conversation during Thanksgiving and I slipped into a verbal discussion. I might have been discussing this show for all I know, but I did say the term they, and my mom called me on that. She was like, what do you mean they? And my brother, who actually does work in this field, was like that his students, some of them that identify one way or another, they use the pronoun they and them. Now, in my case, it was a verbal slip. I was not intending it to be
they and them, he and her. I know my daughter gets mad about pronouns.
But you know what? If I said to Sasha, look, it was always my dream to be a grandmaster. I feel like I'm a grandmaster. Okay, I'm only a 1700 player. I know that you beat me, 19 times out of every 20 games. But from now on, I identify as a grandmaster, and I want you to treat me with the same deference. I want you to refer to me as a grandmaster, and I want you to refer to me as the same deference as you would treat Gary Kasparov. Okay. Sasha would laugh at me. He can't even keep a straight face now. He's laughing at me. But if all of a sudden I use force against him, I say, Sasha, listen, if you don't treat me exactly the same way as Gary Kasparov, right, then, I'm going to cancel you. We're going to take your house. You can never play chess again. You're going to be banned for everything. Well, now all of a sudden, he's very reluctantly, he's going to do it. But then what does he do? Does he have to try to lose 19 games out of to me? Because that's what would happen if he played Gary Kasparov. I mean, what's he supposed to do? It's ridiculous. Don't force your view. You identify what you identify, whatever, fine. The people that like you and respect you might do it. Some people won't. But it's up to them. Don't sit there and get a bee in your bonnet. Oh, I'm so upset. My pronouns aren't being respected. My identity's not being respected. Nobody cares what your identity is. I don't even know your name. I don't even know your name. I just met you. You're serving me coffee. You think I'm going to take the time to remember your pronoun when I can't? I haven't even taken the time to know your name.
No, the whole pronoun thing.
Well,
and Steve, I know I'll get a toss it to you and everything.
I'm going to close out, gentlemen. It's been a wonderful hour.
Two quick issues have been a wonderful hour. Two quick issues that I think we need to bring up tomorrow, and everything that I was getting ready to bring up very quickly is you were talking about the ways that these countries, including China, are dividing and everything. I can make that same argument, and we can talk about it tomorrow about regionalism, because there's definitely regionalism, whether you're East Coast, Southeast, West Coast, or a number of other things. And there are a couple of sovereign nations, namely the native nations, that exist even within the United States. So there is some
sovereign nations. There's sovereign nations such as the native nations. The native nations have limited sovereignty. They don't have the same sovereignty as a nation state. Come on now.
Guys, get out there.
And then the other thing that I hope you'll bring up tomorrow is mental health, because there was some people that were talking about mental health and its impact. And apparently 50% of mental health disorders occur before the age of 14. So there was a local family here that is working on dealing with that. And so hopefully we'll have some conversations around mental health and mental health.
Well, I know that seriously mentally you'll go into politics.
I mean, seriously, I know.
We love you, Steve. We love you.
No, it's a crazy time out there. By the way, as we close out, first of all, I want to wish all of our Jewish friends a very happy Hanukkah. Today was the first day of Hanukkah. We'll talk a little bit about that. I am working on getting some guests in the next few weeks. For those of you who put on a lot of pounds in Thanksgiving, get out there and run. I swam a mile today. Yesterday, I'm training for a triathlon. I ran 9 miles, I swam a mile, and I biked 30. And I'm 51 years old. So, guys, get out there, work off that turkey. Now, my final thought. Yeah.
Are you sure you're not illegal? Because that's what they normally have to do. They've got to do a triathlon just to cross that border, apparently.
Oh, man, that's mean. Hey, so quickly, my final thought is this. I want to tell you, I saw a great movie this weekend called King Richard. And it's the story of Richard Williams and the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena Williams. Mm-hmm. Now, it didn't get very reviews, but as a former college tennis player, I got to tell you, it was an inspiring movie about how these two black women, young ladies from Compton, who grew up in poverty with 5 sisters, would be able to defy conventional wisdom, not play juniors, and the fact that everything that Richard Williams predicted was true. Venus Williams would become number 1 in the world. Yes, she did win Wimbledon 5 times. But Serena Williams would go on to become, arguably, the greatest tennis player in the history of the women's game, winning 23 major titles. I ended the movie in tears, just knowing that only such a great dream could happen in this great nation. I believe that we all should cherish the Williams sisters as long as we have them in the great sport. I know that sometimes there's some controversy involved with either one of them, but at the end of the day, they have been a remarkable asset to the sport. I can only hope that more black men get into tennis. We just haven't had them represented at the highest levels of the sport. And I think it's time. But please, if you have a chance, go watch King Richard. Good acting by Will Smith, but a great story of what truly can happen in our nation. On that note, I want to wish you all a very happy post-Thanksgiving, and look forward to joining you soon on Economics Monday, hopefully, if I can get the link. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning.